What's up, guys? I get asked from time to time how I carry my gear, different bags, different mic stands, and I see a lot of questions on forums like Chiff and Fipple and session.org. In fact, I was on there looking to figure out the best solution, see what other guys were using, and so I thought I'd kind of show you how I do it. So right off the bat, I got a couple of different bags here over the years that I've used. Actually, hang on a sec, kind of need this, hang on. All right, that's better. So now, first things first, instruments. That's obviously the most important thing. That's why we're here. That's why we're playing shows. You can't do much without that. If you're just playing a session, all you really need is a flute and a whistle. Or if you don't play flute, just a whistle or just the flute. Kind of depends what you want to do. You really only need to bring a D whistle and likewise a D flute to most sessions. If you're at a session where you know a lot of the people, maybe you've got a singer who likes to sing a song in B flat and you want to play along and well, by all means, bring that if you need it. I usually don't. I kind of leave that stuff up to the other players, unless it's a song that's in a normal key, like D or G or A or relative minors, and I know how to play it, and I'll play along. But that's kind of up to you. That's up to how your session goes, to kind of feel it out. I wouldn't recommend bringing every whistle you got. One, because you're just going to take up all the room on the table. If your session's like mine, like most of them, everybody's sitting around a circle and there's a table to put pints on and instruments and things like that, so you don't want to hog the whole space. But again, that's up to you. Just kind of feel it out, see what works for you. When I'm touring, when I'm playing in a band, we do sing a lot of songs in various oddball keys. So I've got the usual stuff, the flute and the D whistle. Then I've got an E flat, I've got a C, I've got a B flat, an A, and an F whistle. Now I've also got stands, which I'm going to get into in a second, but I've got a whistle holder and a flute and stand for the larger whistles. Plus in our band we run in-ear monitors, so I've got that. I've got this little extension cable for it so I can plug in and not be completely tethered to my mic stand and my little mixing console, so I can move around a little bit. And I've also got my cell phone charger and the little cable that goes with it. Because I've got a normal person job, I also always carry my laptop and my laptop charger with me too. When I first started touring, they just had a little table they would set like next to the mic stand, and that worked. I just put everything on top of that, cover it with a black drop cloth, but it didn't look great, and depending on the setup at the venues, sometimes they had a tendency to roll off, which is obviously not great. So I came up with another option. This is a drumstick holder. I think I got it off Amazon. The decorations would take 3 times as long as this video to explain. Suffice it to say, there are a whole series of inside jokes that our former drummer put on every gig, one for each gig, to try and make me laugh on stage. He was a hoot. This thing is hysterical. These are never coming off. They're going with me forever. But it's just a basic drumstick holder. Like I said, I think I got it for like 15 bucks on Amazon. I'll put a link down below if you need it. And it just clamps on. You can see how this works. It just clamps onto the mic stand. So I've got my mic up here and then just down below, and I put the smaller whistles in that. I put the D, the E flat, the B, B flat, I think that's the C whistle. I think that's pretty much everything that goes in here. So this works great, it's handy. The whistles are right there in front of you when you need them. So I think this works pretty well. This is certainly not the only solution, but it's the one that works pretty well for me. I've been touring with this now for a couple of years and it's worked out pretty great. For the bigger stuff, the flute and the bigger whistles, they're not gonna fit in this. So I found this thing. It's made for 3 instruments. It's made for, I think, a flute, a piccolo, and a clarinet, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I also got this off of Amazon. It collapses pretty well, and you expand it like this, and you get a couple of these things that come with it. This, I think, was probably made for the silver flute, and it just screws in. And I put the F whistle on this, because that's the biggest. I came with one of these little guys here for the piccolo, and that works for the A whistle. It actually came with 2 of these. The first year I put the flute on there, but it was a little wobbly and it just looked kind of weird and I didn't really trust it that much. So I kind of came up with my own solution, which is this thing. This is a piece of PVC, it's hollow, I don't know if you can see that. It's pretty narrow, but I found out the inside diameter of my flute and I found a piece of PVC that would work. And then I put a little copper flange thing at the bottom and I heat shrink the whole thing and then just screwed in a little bolt that was the same thread size as the stand. And then I spray painted the thing black. You can see I haven't done a great job at that. Some of the black paint's flaking off. It's a little bit ghetto, but it works and it keeps the flute much more stable than when I had the original little piccolo stand. It just wasn't stable enough. So now I've got this little tripod thing here and it works great. And I can put the instruments down next to the mic. They're easily accessed and they're not going to fall over. I don't worry about anybody stepping on them. So it works out pretty well. Now, as far as microphones and PA systems and that sort of thing, again, if you're just playing a session, you're probably not going to need them. Most sessions, at least in America, are not mic'd. A handful of spots like New York, Boston, Chicago, some of those they'll run mic sessions. Typically, they're not. So you usually don't have to worry about that. Now, if you're playing a gig, it gets kind of important. And depending on how the gig is set up, you can bring your own gear. If you have your own PA, obviously you've got everything you need. Sometimes the venue's providing it. Ideally, if I'm playing live, I like to use this. This is a Beta 58 by Shure. It's durable and it sounds great. It's got a really nice low end to it as opposed to the SM58, which is a perfectly fine mic. I use these a lot too. And for the whistles, I don't really notice much of a difference between the two. But on the Flute, the Beta's just got some really rich low end sound and it just sounds fantastic. There's equivalent things like the Sennheiser makes one. I don't remember the model number. But anything in this kind of category is going to sound great for flute and whistle. But again, the basic Shure 58, perfectly fine. If I'm doing smaller gigs where I'm bringing my own PA, I use a Bose L1 Compact because it's compact. It's not going to fill a huge room, but for like small pub gigs and stuff like that, sessions, works great. Now for mics on that, what I usually do is I've kind of rigged up this thing. This is an Audio-Technica. It's phantom powered, this little guy plugs in XLR, and then this is the mic that I actually Velcro onto the Flute. You can see I got this Velcro thing kind of all wrapped up here. Again, a little ghetto, but it works pretty well. It's actually, I think, designed to be a saxophone mic, but it sounds great for the Flute, and it just kind of clamps onto the headstock with the Velcro, and I can just play all night. It works great, never moves, it's solid. Fantastic sound. Try that if you think it might work for you. Again, it kind of all depends on your setup, what kind of gigs you're doing. Whether you even need a mic, and if this would work for you. As far as bags, gig bags, like what I'm actually carrying everything in, this is what I started with. This is just a typical leather messenger bag. I think I got it from some leather shop. I can't remember. Wilson's Leather, maybe? I don't know. Something like that. And it works great. It's just kind of your typical businessman bag. Holds the laptop, chargers, cell phone chargers, that kind of stuff. Mouse and keyboard, external hard drives, usual stuff. But it fit all the gear in just fine, the Flute and all the whistles. The problem that I ran into, well, eventually became a problem, was when I switched F-whistles. F-whistles are pretty big. They're, you know, about like that. And it's too wide for the bag. However, the first one I had kind of broke down in the middle, and I could stick it in my whistle traveling carrying case, which is a sock. I know, kind of ghetto. But it works, keeps them from flying all over the place and rattling around. That goes in the bag, good to go. I switched whistles. I got a Gary Humphrey F-whistle about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, something like that. And it's just typically, well, it's like the rest of the whistles where it's just the head joint that tunes. So it doesn't break down, it's just this giant piece of metal. And it wouldn't fit. I initially thought I'd just have it sticking out, but I was a little worried I was gonna bang it on something. So I switched bags. So I checked this one, and then I got this. Another leather messenger bag, which is wider. And it fit. Everything fit in there just fine. Still held the laptop. It wasn't quite as well organized as the other one, didn't have as many pockets, but everything fit. And it worked out all right. This thing's fine. I think I probably got this from the same Wilson's Leather shop. 2 years ago, I started doing a lot more photography and bringing a lot more gear, so I switched again. And that's when I landed on this guy. This is a Low Pro 450 AW, I think is the model number. It's a camera bag. It's got 1 million pockets in it, and it's very comfortable to carry. I don't know if you can see that. It's got all these pockets. You can set it up all kinds of different ways. Because again, it's a camera bag. It's made to hold lenses and audio gear and all that kind of stuff. And in my case, at least the last tour, I was bringing all sorts of other nonsense. A drone batteries, chargers, tripod, the DSLR that I'm filming on right now. So all that gear wouldn't fit in the regular messenger bag. This thing holds pretty much everything I need. I have to make a couple of sacrifices depending on what sort of gig I'm doing, but all the instruments fit. Now, what doesn't fit in here is the F-whistle. So I'm back to that same problem. However, this thing's got a tripod holder on the side, which you can see right here, hopefully, like that. And the F-whistle just slides down in there, and it's strapped to the outside, and it's not going to fall out, and it's not going to bang on anything, and honestly, it just looks kind of cool. So I dig this bag. This has kind of been my go-to for the past year or so. It works out really well. I really dig this bag. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as far as a gig bag. This is certainly not the only option, and if you have more gear or less gear, you may or may not need this kind of stuff, but this is how I do it, and I think it works pretty well. Hopefully you guys dig this. Let me know what kind of setups you guys use. If you have a different option, maybe something I haven't thought of, let me know in the comments, and we'll see if we can get some different ideas, different feedback going, because I kind of like this stuff. I like the gear aspect of it. It's just fun. I just think it's kind of cool. So let me know what you guys think. I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.